and this sentencing of probation?
Well, thanks, Maria. And honestly, it's probably the biggest example of one set of rules for them and another set of rules for the rest of the American public. As a former federal prosecutor and a former federal public defender, I've handled hundreds of sentencings in federal and state courts. And this type of criminal activity by a senior level government official in the FISA court process to intentionally lie and exclude information to receive a slap on the wrist because, as the judge said, he had lost a job and that was punishment enough. If I went into a federal court and put that in a pleading to say my client has suffered embarrassment, please don't sentence him to prison, that is a joke and that is a travesty of justice, and it's just an outrage.
Well, what were you expecting, Cash?
Well, in these matters, Maria, there's federal sentencing guidelines, which are computation of the crime and criminal history and the behavior, etc. And the sentencing guidelines in this case called for prison. And the judge gave a downward variance based on stats that he believed to apply in the case. Now, of course, the sentencing guidelines are persuasive and not mandatory, but as anyone knows who's been in federal court, they are very much near binding. And so for him to do that, it is a political decision to let this criminal off the hook because he interfered with the political process of the United States because he didn't like the party on the other side.
Wow. Devin Nunes, your reaction?
Well, if you look at the Friday night surprise by this judge, a lot of Republicans across the country are saying, look, how are we going to really support this FISA process moving forward? This has been a process that's been in place for 40 years. It's protected America after 9/11. We made a lot of adjustments to it. But look, Friday night, Klein Smith, who should be in jail right now, probably is still on a binger celebrating with all of his Democratic Party pals, and sent a clear message to people at the Department of Justice and the FBI in the new Biden administration that if you follow our politics, if you practice wokeism, if you ensure that we target conservatives and Republicans across the country, don't worry, we're going to take care of you. And that's what's happened here. And if you look forward to the Durham investigation, this investigation's been going on a couple of years now. I think if you're John Durham, you have to really be looking at, are you really going to bring any prosecutions in the District of Columbia when you can't even get the presiding judge over the FISA court to prosecute someone and sentence someone that actually lied to that very court? So, and you look at, Durham could bring dozens of indictments if you get this judge. This judge, if you take the way he's operated, he actually may pay these criminals for their crimes. So I think Durham's got to really look at, if you're going to bring these to the District of Columbia, or are you going to have to go somewhere else at this point?
Yeah, I mean, the weaponizing of the intelligence agencies, Devin, you wrote about back in 2018, and we have your memo, the Nunes memo, when you talked about Christopher Steele. You said Steele was a longtime FBI source who was paid $160,000 by the DNC and the campaign via the law firm Perkins Coie and research firm Fusion GPS to obtain derogatory information on Donald Trump's ties to Russia. Even today, so many years later, Congressman, many people still believe that there was collusion because of the incredible way that they were able to spread this lie. They're calling election fraud the big lie. In my view, this is the big lie. Russia collusion with Trump.
Yeah, what you're seeing here is the normalization of fake news narrative building. So you have political parties that decide that they want to go out and hire a bunch of people, develop a narrative that you go out and get reporters to go report on, and then the FBI takes it and picks it up and then uses it in the FISA court to actually make whatever the news narrative you want real. And that's what you're seeing now with this whole idea that we're now going to, after 5 years, it's been 5 years since the beginning, at least that we know of the corruption of our intelligence agencies in this country. Now you hear this talk about domestic terrorism. Now they want to use, after they've corrupted it, they now want to take and make a change so they turn the entire apparatus of the intelligence agencies on Americans that they don't like. Americans who maybe voted for Trump. Americans who use Parler, who think that Twitter and Facebook and Google and Apple are monopolies and antitrust and they should be broken apart. There's 75 million Americans who who don't like those companies, who don't want to use those companies, but have to. They make a move to a small company like Parler and they get booted off. So I think what you're seeing, Maria, here is 5 years ago you saw the beginning of this, of hiring foreign agents, doctoring up evidence, and now what you're going to see is the FBI to the military is all going to be politicized because supposedly if you didn't vote the way the left and the Socialists and the Democrat Party wanted, you're now a domestic terrorist.
Yeah. That's unbelievable, Cash. Weigh in on that. And is there anything Republicans can do about this? We're going to talk with Stephen Miller coming up, and he has a lot to say about this. He says that Ken Paxton right now is the most important, powerful Republican because he's suing the Biden administration. He's expecting more AGs to do the same. But your reaction to what you heard from Congressman Nunes, you put a list out, Cash, didn't you, about all of the information and the documents you wanted to see declassified. And even in that list, you and Congressman Nunes did not see all of the things you thought you knew.
Absolutely, Maria. I mean, Congressman Nunes is spot on in terms of the weaponization of portions of the intelligence community. Let's just go to the FISA process. As a former terrorism prosecutor who used the FISA process appropriately to safeguard the American public and the homeland, to see its bastardization in this way is so outrageous, and it's only increased by the sentencing of Kleinsmith. Now, we know that the most basic level, you don't have to know anything about the courts or warrants or anything. But this fundamental principle of due process is if there is exculpatory information that you as a Department of Justice prosecutor are aware of and the FBI is aware of, then you must present it to a federal judge. And as you highlight in Devin's memo of February 18, not just one sentence was validated by the independent inspector general, all of it. And the crux of that memo goes to show you how much the FBI knew of the innocence expressed by those that they were targeting in the Trump campaign, and what we call exculpatory information was intentionally withheld, as shown by Kleinsmith and others, from the FISA court. If I did that as a prosecutor or federal public defender, I wouldn't have handcuffs put on me a month later. I'd be shown to the back of the judge's room where the jailhouse sits, and I'd be in there overnight for many nights to come. So we have shown through Congressman Nunes' work the weaponization of intelligence that is selectively applied for political gain. That cannot happen in the United States of America. In terms of how we go forward, Maria, we need warriors like Congressman Nunes and his team on House Intel and the other folks on the Hill like Lee Zeldin to stand up and continue fighting, because it is the hardest fight that we are in right now. And thanks to you, Maria, we have a platform for at least millions of people to continue to listen to this. It's just as easy for the left to ignore it, but it's twice as hard for us to continue the work, and that's what we need. And we'll